رمضان 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 يا حبيب رمضان رمضان ليتك دوما قريب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Well, let me start by recognizing the presence of our Sheikh, who I will suggest will become the chairman of this gathering, since nobody has been announced as our chairman. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. May Almighty Allah continue to be with you, to strengthen you, and to give you long life with sound health and prosperity. A lot of us see you as a role model in dedication, service to the religion of Almighty Allah. May Almighty Allah continue to support you in so doing. My host, I have two hosts today. So the question of who will be the chief host, I will leave that to Sheikh Abdurrahman to decide. Between, okay. So that my chief host, my dear brother, Dr. Bashir Osodi. And of course, my other host, Alhaji Luqman Adekambi. I've seen him. May Almighty Allah, well, I've listened to one or two people this morning praying for you for what you have been doing for Islam. Surprisingly, when we came this morning, I couldn't recognize him because we have been talking on phone for 1 year because of this program. And I really, really want to commend your doggedness, resilience, and perseverance. He gave me a whole year notice for today's lecture. He actually wanted me to come last year, but I said, sir, I'm sorry. Even though I will be in Lagos, you remember, on that date, but I've already promised some people to be part of their program. So since then, he has been following me. Just because of you. I'm saying this because I really want you to appreciate the effort he has put together to ensure that the likes of Sheikh Abdurrahman Ahmad, despite the very busy schedule I know he has, particularly in Ramadan, Adia Kekereku is also a very busy person, I know, representing another very busy woman, Adia Adiola. My regards to her. And of course, Alhaja, whom I'm meeting for the first time, may Almighty Allah reward you too abundantly. And to the generality of my audience, our babas are there. I always like when I see the turbans of our babas in the Yoruba land. Let me, because of the time constraint, let me just say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic that has been assigned to me, according to Alhaji Adekambi, is Ribanomics. That's a new word in our dictionary. Invented by Alhaji Luqman Adekambi. Ribanomics. The dynamics of economic slavery. By way of a conceptual clarification, what we mean by Ribanomics is as simple as this. That's a merger between two words, riba and economics. When we talk of Ribanomics, that means an economy that is riba based. Simple as that. And we want you to see how this economy that is based on riba, what are the dynamics of economic slavery that are perfectly embedded in such an economic policy or system. When I was given this topic, I said, I don't think there is any other people anywhere in the world that are better positioned to talk about the dynamics of economic slavery in a riba-based economy than us. Do you know what I meant by us? By all of you. Nigerians. I think Nigerians are better positioned to explain to the whole world. We should even be teaching others. What are the dynamics of economic slavery that we can see in Ribanomics or a riba-based economy? Why am I saying this? Let's listen to our former president, Chief Olusegun Aremu Obasanjo, GCFR. According to General Obasanjo, and the statement I am going to read to you now, he made it as a president, not outside power. You know, when Baba talks outside power, it may have some other connotations. But when someone speaks while he is in power and is talking to something that no any other person was even more qualified than him then to say as a sitting president. So the statement with that has a lot of academic and probative value. General Obasanjo, as fondly called, said about my country and your country, Nigeria, all that we had borrowed up till in 1985 was around $5 billion. And we have paid about $16 billion. Please note the figures. We borrowed 5 and we ended up paying 16. Yet, it's still General Obasanjo that is talking. Yet, we are still being told that we owe about $28 billion. I will ask you of the total later. Add 16 plus 28. You will tell me that later, not now. But just note that we borrowed 5, we paid 16, and we still owe 28. Some people will say, what kind of nonsense is that? That is Ribanomics for you. That is Ribanomics, the dynamics of economic slavery that we are here to discuss. Let me complete reading from the statement from President Olusegun Obasanjo. He said that $28 billion remaining after paying 16 came about because of the injustice in the foreign creditors' interest rates. And if you ask me, not Abdulrasaq Alaro, it's Obasanjo that is still talking. He said, if you ask me, Baba Obasanjo said, if you ask him, what is the worst thing in the world? I will say it is interest. End of quote. And that is why I said, as Nigerians, we should be educating others. We are better positioned to realize, to know, to identify what are the dynamics of economic slavery embedded in Ribanomics. But unfortunately, we are not in that class alone as Nigerians. Let me give you another dimension. The United Nations, the world body that we all know, released a report less than a year ago, precisely in July 2023. That report was about the state of debt of nations all over the world. In the report released in July 2023 by the United Nations, look at what it contains. According to the UN, approximately 3.3 billion people, that is almost half of humanity. Humanity is just a little bit over 7 billion. The report says half of humanity now live in countries that spend more money to service interest on their debt than what they spend on education or health. They are not spending that humongous amount of money to pay the original debt. No. But what they are spending to pay what? The interest is even higher than what they spend on education and what they spend on health. And that is not in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 countries, in half of humanity. And we continue to deceive ourselves that we want those countries to develop. We want those countries to grow. We want to empower those countries. Which countries? Countries that are spending on debt servicing, interest payment alone, than what they spend on education and health. We all say it. We want those countries to fulfill the SDG goals, Sustainable Development Goals. Very laudable, very commendable goals. No hunger, or no poverty, zero hunger, good health, and quality education. Those are the 4 goals of SDG. How come, how for God's sake, would those countries that are busy paying interest, paying just to serve interest, to service interest, more than what they use to, what they pay on education and health? And if that is not understood enough, I see a similar case, a similar scenario in this our country, Nigeria. I delivered a paper at the Kwara State University, Malete, about a year ago, about a year ago. And there I mentioned that I did not see any serious sign of wanting to develop in Nigeria. If you ask me, then what I saw, my fact was that I think I delivered the paper in February during the last few months of the past administration. They said they were going to stop subsidy in June. That is just 6 months. And they budgeted for 6 months fuel subsidy what amounted to 3.36 trillion naira. And that was about 15% of our total budget, 2023 budget. 15% goes to fuel subsidy. Imagine, how much did they give to education? From primary to university. Let me shock you. 1.79 trillion naira. That is just about 8%. 8% for 12 years, for 12 months, 12 months to spend on education from primary to university in Nigeria generally, this federal government budget. And yet, they budgeted for 6 months for a subsidy. How much? Have you forgotten? 3.36 trillion rather. That is about 15. If they were to budget for the other 6 months, that will take the budget for fuel subsidy to what? 30%. and we gave just 8% to education. Is that a sign of wanting to develop as a nation? So if you hear what was said in the UN report, listen to what is happening in our country too. But let us remain within the confine of today's topic, Ribanomics, the dynamics of economic slavery. Let me mention one more fact. It's very unfortunate what was revealed in that report, the UN report. Very credible report. You see, those countries that give us money as loans, some of us may be deceived, may be carried away that at least we need that money. We want to build our infrastructure and we don't have money. So the only available opportunity for us is to borrow money. And they will give us money. Give us money to develop. Do you know that the reality, according to Mr. Antonio Guterres is still the Secretary General of the United Nations. He said, the reality is that African countries in particular, African countries, on the average, pay 4 times more for borrowing than the United States of America. And pay 8 times more than the wealthiest European countries. So even if you want to help the weak ones, the poor ones, who should pay more as interest? The strong, the wealthy, or the poor and the weak? But that is the regime. This is the dynamic. These are the dynamics of economic slavery. Even though you are poor, if we give you money, you will have to pay more than what the rich countries pay. Imagine. This is not coming from an African. Antonio Guterres is not an African. He doesn't have any reason to be biased in our favor. But he's talking to the reality. He's facing the reality. As African countries, even when we borrow based on interest, the interest that we pay is 4 times higher than what the superpower, the United States of America, will pay if it gets the same loan. And 8 times than what the UK, Germany, France, and the rest of them in the Europe will pay. The summary of, and as if to add insult to injury, what you and I have been taught in schools, and up till today we are still teaching our children, is that we have been taught to refer to those creditors as what? International donor agencies. So they are still donors. International donor agencies. And let me shock you again. World Bank and International Monetary Fund, part of those international donor agencies, is a verifiable fact. They make every single year, at least $200 billion in lending money to poor countries. International donor agencies. The summary of all this preamble is that what is the import? What is the implication of what Alhaji Lukman called dynamics of economic slavery in Ribanomics? The summary of all this is that the system is to ensure that the rich always get richer and the poor continues to be poor and even poorer. That is not it. So if that is not slavery, I need somebody to tutor me on what economic slavery will be. And that is exactly what we are witnessing in the whole world. And it is not about countries alone. You know, when we talk about paying more than America, more than UK, we are talking about countries, even about individuals and businesses. You can ask yourself, how many small businesses have ever tried on the strength of getting banking loans, interest-based? How many of them? The reality, the truth of the matter, according to studies upon studies, is that in Nigeria, even though Small businesses constitute more than 96%. More than what? 96% of the businesses in Nigeria are MSMEs. Yes. They should be the engine room of our economy, just as they are in other parts of the world. These so-called small businesses constitute more than 99% of the businesses in the US. More than 98% of the businesses in Malaysia. So they are the true engine rooms of any economy. In Nigeria, they are more than 96% small businesses. But how many of them do thrive? Because they rely on loans, on dynamics of economic slavery. Studies have established that the lifespan of small businesses in Nigeria is 5 years. Only 5 to 10% of small businesses in Nigeria survive beyond 5 years. So, that system is in place to do nothing but what I've told you. If you are rich, it's a big opportunity for you. You continue to get richer and richer. And unfortunately, if you happen to be poor, then that system will ensure that you continue to wallow in poverty and perhaps you become poor. Now, let's talk Islam now. Enough of preamble. Almighty Allah that created us and knows us better than any other being. That is how he said it in Al-Quran Al-Kareem in Surah Al-Mulk. Ala ya'lamu man khalaqa wa huwa al-latiful khabir. Nobody can know us more than our Creator, unless we want to deceive ourselves. No one can know than who creates. And he said, I know you. I know what you can do. I know what you cannot do. What you have the ability to do, I know. What is beyond your capacity, I know. It is based on this knowledge of us that he revealed verses in Al-Quran Al-Kareem telling me and you to move away from these Ribanomics, from the dynamics of economic slavery. A lot of verses in Al-Quran Al-Kareem. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله ومن عاد فأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. That is just one verse of many verses of Al-Quran Al-Kareem. This one that I've just recited unto you, you will find it in Surah Al-Baqarah. That is what you call chapter 2. But I know Sheikh Abdurrahman taught me Surah Al-Baqarah, so I don't know Quran 2, Quran 1. So you find it in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 275. But there are other verses like that in Baqarah and other chapters. It is because he knows us. He knows what is good for us. He knows what is bad for us. And not only that, because we may have even some non-Muslims as part of the audience, there are many verses in the Bible as well prohibiting, condemning Ribanomics or riba-based economy. Let me point to some of those biblical verses. I won't read them, but just as references. If you like, you can go to Psalm chapter 15, verse 5, Leviticus 25:36, Deuteronomy 23, verses 19 to 20, and Exodus 22:25. Those are some of even the biblical verses. So, prohibition of interest of riba is not only for Muslims, it's for humanity. Because who created humanity is Almighty God, is Almighty Allah, who knows us better than any other being. is He. He knows what will serve our best interest. And He has actually directed us to that one. But if you refuse, then we will have to face the consequence. And we are already facing the consequence of the dynamics of economic slavery. Now, we've seen how evil riba, interest, is. The dynamics of economic slavery that are perfectly embedded in riba-based economy. Then the question that follows is, how does Islam address this issue of riba? First and foremost, I like to be objective when I'm addressing issues like this. What is exactly wrong with riba? We need to know what exactly is wrong with interest-based or riba-based economy. But bear in mind that fact that Allah would never tell you not to go there if He knows it will benefit you as humanity. But for the sake of argument, let us even ask, what exactly is wrong with interest-based or riba-based economy? Two important things. Number one, the riba-based economy tries to separate gain from loss. That is the first problem with this system. It separates gains from losses. Meaning that it creates an avenue that for one reason or the other, some people will position themselves to always receive gains, but never shall they be subjected to loss. They will only benefit forever and they will never be subjected to any disadvantage, come whatever. It's possible when you are operating a riba-based economy to separate gains from losses. And that is the first major problem with riba economy. The second one is that it also tries to detach financing from the real sector of the economy. When we talk about the real sector of the economy, it means simply is where goods and services are provided. That is the essence of any economy. The real sector of the economy is where goods and services are provided. Meanwhile, there is a need for money to be injected to the real sector of the economy. That is what brought banking into being in the first place. Now, a riba-based economy will tell you we will separate financing from the real sector. And that is what created a lot of problems to the whole world in terms of economics. Let me give you one local example that may make you understand this better. Separation of what? Of financing from the real economy. From the real economy. Sometimes ago, a teacher approached me. I'm also a teacher, but I'm a university teacher. So he thought I'm better than him. So he wanted a loan from me. And the amount he asked for actually is what I could afford. I could afford it. And I was ready to give him. But as I know, Islam teaches us not to waste our money. It's haram for you to just throw your money anyway. It's haram. I wanted to be sure, how is he going to pay me back? If I give you money, will you pay back? Because you didn't ask for grant. You didn't ask for a gift. You said loan. And unhesitatingly, without even thinking for 1 minute or 1 second, do you know his answer? Oh, don't worry, doctor. I was still a PhD holder. I wasn't a professor then. Doctor, don't worry. I have applied for a Greek loan. Then I was trying to reconcile between his response and what he initially told me he wanted to use the money for. The gentleman wanted to take a second wife. And he needed a separate apartment for the new wife. He had already secured the apartment, but he needed furniture. So he approached me to get loan to furnish that new apartment. And he said I shouldn't worry. He had applied for a Greek loan. That is what Ribanomic is teaching us. Because the bank that will give him that loan is not concerned whether you do a Greek or you don't do a Greek. My own is I give you 100,000 in 1 year, in 6 months. You pay me this 100,000 plus 30% interest. Shikena, that's all. Whether you develop your Greek sector, if you like, don't develop your Greek sector. That's what we call separation of financing from the real sector of the economy. And it's very, very dangerous to any economy. I will give you some instances. We have allowed this to happen in the past, and the whole world suffered for it. When we flash back to 2007, 2008, 2009, that was when the whole world had a global recession, global economic recession of 2007 till 2009. One of the major reasons that led the world into that recession is this issue of allowing financing to grow, to develop at a different pace from the real economy. We allow the whole world, allowed one single market, financing market, known as derivatives market. If you don't know that, you have to see Dr. Bashir later. See Aja Kekereekun later. Pro bono. You will teach them pro bono. Derivatives market alone was allowed to grow. It outgrew the real sector with unimaginable figure. An unimaginable figure. It was growing because it's possible. When we are talking of river-based economy, you can allow financing separately, moving in a different orbit, and the real sector in another orbit. And you continue to deceive yourself that there is money. There is none. Derivative market in 2008, precisely, I did a research in 2008 and discovered that derivative market, that is the market like a future market, option market, forward market, and so on and so forth, is multi-billion-dollar market every day, every single day. Then, derivative market was worth $600 trillion. How many trillion? $600 trillion in 2008. Now, when you compare that with the real economy of the whole world in 2008, imagine it was how much? How many? $60 trillion. The total GDP of the entire world, the whole economy of the whole world, the economy of the whole world in 2008 was just $60 trillion. Today it has improved. It's a little bit above $100 trillion as we speak today. But in 2008 it was $60 trillion. Yet you have a market, financing market, that was already in the range of $600 trillion. You ask yourself, if you remove what is real, 60, where is the 540? Nowhere. But it created a lot of trouble, a lot of problem for the whole world. That is only possible because of that element of separation between financing and the real sector. That doesn't happen. If you go to Lotus Capital or Lotus Bank or any other bank, I shouldn't be advertising for any of you. as a regulator. But I'm just using, because Lotus is here represented. If you go to them, let me give you one practical example. I once called the branch manager of Jaiz Bank in Ilorin. He has become a regional manager now, Taufik. I wanted to see him for an issue, and I said, "Where are you?" He said, "Sorry, Prof, I am far away." He mentioned a farm for me, remote part of Ilorin, in a farm. I said, "Bank manager, are you farming?" I said, no, but we finance some farmers. That is the difference between Islamic and non-Islamic financing. In Islamic financing, you must never separate financing from the real sector of the economy. And that is why a bank manager in an Islamic bank cannot just sit in his office and people just come and say, "Give me a Greek loan, give me whatever loan," and go and marry second and third wife. He must ensure that they use it for a Greek. He must ensure, if you said you want to build a machine for your processing whatever business, whatever you said you are going to use the money for, it must be used for it, because that is what contributes to the real sector of the economy. Unfortunately, in Ribanomics, they allow that. In fact, recently, there is another study that tells us another danger. We talked about derivatives. Let's look at the Forex. A lot of youth, you are in Forex now, Forex trading. That's another multi-billion-dollar market every day. As we speak now, research studies have established that Forex market alone has outgrown the whole GDP of the world, the GDP of the whole world. For how many times? More than 18 times. More than 18 times. And let me come back home. We witnessed something like that in Nigeria in 2009-10, when we were being told that some banks were performing excellently. They were rated as #1 banks, the best banks. At the end of the day, when the balloon burst, we discovered that they were very small. All this could happen when you separate financing from the real sector of the economy. What is the Sharia antidote? What is the solution? We've mentioned two important elements, two important problems with riba-based economy. One, separation of gain from loss. And the other one is detaching financing from the real economy. Let me begin with the first one. Is a major principle of Sharia. You know, Sharia is the backbone of Islamic finance. There is no Islamic finance without Sharia. A major principle of Sharia is what we call, we say it this way, Al-Gunmu bil-Gurmi wal-Kharaju bi-Ad-Daman. Taken from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, Al-Kharaju bi-Ad-Daman. What does it mean? It means benefit goes with damage, and revenue always follows liability. In other words, you can never separate your gain from your loss. Somebody mentioned asset and liability a short while ago. What Sharia is saying, the justice Sharia has promoted, is that wherever you stand to gain, you will not be allowed to shield yourself if there is any possibility for loss. Nobody is saying you must lose. Get it right. Sharia is not saying you must lose. But as you will claim entitlement, that I am entitled to this as my profit, then you should be prepared that if things go wrong, you shouldn't run away. You should not create a system that will shield you when you will have an open opportunity to claim any amount of gain of profit. Al-gunmu bil-gurmi wal-kharaju bil-daman. And let me give you some examples of where I think even some of us as Muslims, we are getting it wrong in some of our businesses. I said this last week. I was in Ede, and that day, in fact, a very respectable scholar called me the same night as I was breaking my fast that I wasn't present. They said, you said so in your lecture. I said it because I found it in Quran and Hadith. And he confessed to me that he has been doing that for years. What is that? You will give your money to someone, and the agreement between the two of you will be, I've given you 1 million naira. Every month, he too will promise you that just give me 1 million. I'm doing very good business. Every month, I will be paying you 50,000. Every month, I will pay you 30,000 naira. What are you doing? You are perpetrating riba. That's it. Because what you are saying is that I don't want to know whether you gain or lose. What concerns me is that my 1 million is with you. At the end of the month, you must drop 50,000. You must drop 30,000. That can only happen where you separate your gain from your loss. Now, who tells you? How do you know that each month that man is getting 50 or 100 or a million? What of if he doesn't get at all? So, this is one of the areas that I think as Muslims we need to assess ourselves too. Because in Islam, they go together. Wherever you are entitled to profit, you must also be liable if there is any loss. Some of you are into cooperative societies. I always correct them. Whenever they tell me, I do advise some of them pro bono. What are you doing? Let me know so that we can correct you. Some of them, a lot of them will say we have ordinary loan and we have business loan. And I will take my biro and cancel that one. Say, there is nothing called business loan. Nothing in Islam should be called business loan. They will say, because he's using our money to do business now. What's wrong if he gives us part of his profit? Nothing is wrong. But should he also give you part of his loss if he loses? They will say, no. Then you are getting it wrong. If you give someone money to do business, you must be open to the two. Today, it is gain, we share. Tomorrow, it is also gain, we share. The next tomorrow, it becomes loss. You want to run away? Sharia will not allow you. That is the justice. Again, we are not saying you must lose. Some people have been in business for years. They've never made any loss. That is the favor of Almighty Allah on them. But there should be a rule in place that says it clearly that as I am entitled to profit, to gain, if there is any potential, any possibility of losses, then we also have to share that one too. And that is, I think you must have realized what some of you will claim erroneously, that I put my money in a savings account, 10 more minutes. And the bank is using it. Bank is using my money, isn't it? Bank doesn't lock up your money in a box now. When you put your money in your account, they will use it. Yeah, they will use it. Why can't they give me back some of the profit they make? Fine. But do you know what you should do? Tomorrow when a bank declares loss, go to the bank manager and ask him, what is my percentage of the loss declared this year by your bank? That is it. Or when you take your money to a bank and when you have dropped your money with a cashier, but in your own presence, armed robbers struck and collected everything in that hall. When you come back, you cannot say, I dropped 1 million. The bank manager will tell you, well, you are there that day now. Who will listen to any branch manager? None of you will do. You want to separate your gain from your loss. Nobody is saying don't share from the bank's profit. But enter into a proper contract with a bank. That is why you have a non-interest bank, Islamic bank, that you can go into partnership with them. Dr. Bashir, should I reveal a secret you told me last night? There is a beautiful edifice in Oneru on the highland in Lagos. Very beautiful. He confided in me that this structure was built based on Musharaka contract. That's one of the products of Islamic banking. Partnership. Partnership means in good and in bad. We have to share the two. I know it's a win-win for the two, but they know that if things got wrong, none of the parties will be allowed to run away. So that is just by the way. Anyway, we have just 10 more minutes. This issue of allowing financing to grow at a space different from the real sector of the economy is very, very dangerous. And sometimes ago, even one of the leading bankers in the world, the former governor of Bank of England, you know, when we say Bank of England, that is the equivalent of our own central bank. Marvin King. Marvin King was not just a governor of a central bank. He was, in addition to that, a professor of economics, trained in Oxford and Harvard. Marvin King once declared as a sitting governor of the Bank of England. Let me read on to you what he said. Because of what he saw in this, what they call fractional reserve banking, that is one of the implications of allowing financing to outgrow the real sector of the economy. You create money that does not exist. You create money that doesn't exist. How come? How can you reconcile that one? The real money in the whole world was 60 trillion. Yet, we claim to have in one market, how many trillion? $600 trillion. Where are the rest 540? Nowhere to be found. That is possible because of the regime in banking based on riba, fractional reserve banking. Marvin King complained and said, of all the many ways of organizing banking, the worst is the one we have today. Who said that? Sheikh Abdurrahman Ahmed? An imam? No. It was one of the finest, one of the best bankers in the whole world. A professor of economics for that matter. So, and because we are in Nigeria, and we have a duty to contribute to the growth and development of our country, it is also part of it. What Islam does not allow us to do in separating financing from the real sector of the economy. We all hear the news, the noises about ways and means advances in Nigeria. Or you've not heard that? It's part of the reason why we are where we are today in terms of our economic difficulty. That is the truth. Because Central Bank of Nigeria for years was just printing money in a simple language without anything, without any corresponding value creation, without anything corresponding to that in the real sector of the economy. Just, we need so dollars, print. We need so dollars, print. That is what they call ways and means advances. And you know, they even did it in a way that contravened the very law, the law that established the central bank itself. Go and read the CBN Act of 2007. Section 38 of that act, subsection 2, says, yes, central bank is a lender to the federal government. No problem about that. But it is not lending without a limit. You know the limit put in our law? That you can only lend federal government 5%, maximum of 5% of the previous year's actual revenue. That is, if Nigeria has money, we look at your revenue for this year. Oh, next year you are in problem. Okay. Last year, okay, your revenue was 1 billion, was 1 trillion. Then we give you as a loan from central bank. How much? 5%. That is the law up till today. But how did we arrive at a situation where up till now, the unpaid ways and means advances is more than $21 trillion? More than 21. Have we made thousands of trillions that we will say 5% is 21 trillion? At all. In fact, we carried out a research in 2022 while I was in NIPS, Guru Jos. We realized that in 2021, the revenue was about $200 billion. Meaning that if you want to give Nigeria something, just look at, 5%. 5% of the previous year revenue was about just $200 billion. Now we have moved from 200 billion. Even then, it was about 20 billion. 20 trillion rather. That means we have exceeded the limit that was set in our own law by more than 100 times. Yes, calculate it now. 200 billion to 20 trillion. That's 20 times. It's unfortunate. But that is part. I'm saying this because we in Islamic finance, Islamic economics, we also have a duty to tell them that this is part of the solutions. Stop this mess. I'm happy the current governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria has boldly and courageously said to the federal government, no more money, no more loan. He has said it clearly. And he wouldn't have said that if he doesn't have the support of his president, meaning that the president is also doing the right thing. He has said it, Olayemi Cardoso, the present governor, that until federal government pays the outstanding 20-something trillion, no single naira will be advanced again. That's very, very commendable. But we are saying this, we are relating it to what Sharia tells us. Don't allow your financing, your money creation to grow and grow and grow in excess of the real sector of the economy. Do you know where we were told that the Prophet ﷺ was the greatest economist around? More than 1,000 years ago, in a hadith narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri and Ubadatu ibn Samitin radiyallahu anhuma, they said the Prophet ﷺ instructed us by saying, الذهب بالذهب والفضة بالفضة والبر بالبر والتمر بالتمر والملح بالملح يدا بيد سواء بسواء. If we had followed that principle laid down in this hadith, we wouldn't have found ourselves where we found ourselves. What did he say? Right from that time. In fact, many economists in the world today are still baffled. They are still wondering, how did he know this? If not, because he was a prophet receiving revelation from Almighty God, Almighty Allah. The prophet from that day said, look, if gold and silver were the currencies of those days, that if you want to use your gold and silver to buy the order, or you want to use any barley, wheat, those are the commodities of that time, salt, date, he said the two counter values must be present. The two counter values must be present. What is he saying? There's no way you can go on to create extra 540 trillion that will be nowhere to be found. Because he will ask you from day one, this is your $1. Okay, this is the commodity worth of $1. The two we can see. But because we fail to adhere to this is why the whole world is where we are today economically, that we are all sovereign. That hadith has been there for over 1,000 years. الذهب بالذهب والفضة بالفضة سواء بسواء. Well, because of time, let me conclude by saying something on a popular statement that is not true. It's popular, but it's not true. It's false. In fact, I call it a fallacy. They will tell us there is no economy without banking and no banking without interest. A lot of Muslims still believe in this fallacy up till today. Yes, we agree with the first part. To have a strong economy, you need what? You need the banking system. And that is why we will appeal to some of our scholars and students of knowledge who do not understand the workings of Islamic banking to stop condemning the system. If you want Muslims to have strong economy, they must have a banking system to support it. But what is not true is to claim that there is no banking without interest. And this is what was successively challenged about 50 years ago. Some Muslim economists and bankers, they came together to say, no, it's not possible. Remember that verse of Surah Al-Mulk, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Doesn't he know you, he who created you? Allah will not say don't partake in riba, and yet will allow you to trade. And he knows you cannot trade successfully unless you deal in riba. It's impossible. They took up that challenge and said, no, we will do banking without interest. And that is why in March 1975, or in March 2024, that's how many years? 49 years. Yes, 49 years. The first commercial Islamic bank started operation in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. Dubai Islamic Bank. It was an initiative of just one man, Sheikh Said Luther, rahimahullah. He was just a businessman. He had the money and invited economists and scholars and bankers that we should be able to do this. If it is not possible, Allah will not tell us not to avoid it. That means it is avoidable. That is why he has asked us to avoid riba. And they started it, and it's flourishing up till today. It's a fallacy to claim that there is no banking without interest. Because when we go to the history of banking, ask them, what brought banking into being? There were people who have been living before the banking. The modern banking started in 17th century. So one of those who lived before 17th century. So there could be banking without interest. The old essence of banking came from what we call financial intermediation. In Sharia, we call it al-wasatatul maliyah. What does that mean? That is what any bank does originally. Meaning that they will, when we say intermediation, it means you are standing between two people. These two people, in economics, they will refer to one side as surplus unit of the economy. The other side is deficit unit of economy. That is how Almighty Allah likes to create world and operate it. That some people will have in excess. They will have more than what they need immediately. So they are categorized as those in surplus unit. And some will have brilliant ideas, but they have less. He knows how to invest, to work with $1 billion, $1 billion, but he doesn't own 1 million naira. Now, the bank is to serve as an intermediary between the two of them. And what does a conventional riba-based bank does? It tells the surplus unit, give me your money, I will pay you interest. And turn to the deficit unit and say, you need money to work, Abi. I will give you money, but you will also pay me interest. Then you will ask, What does it stand to gain as an intermediary? Aha. If he asks you, if he tells you, the owner of the money, that look, if you give me 1 million, I will give you 100,000. He will turn to the deficit unit and say, if you use my 1 million, he will now claim my 1 million, not 1 million of the surplus unit. If I give you my 1 million, you will pay 400,000. Imagine, 100,000 here, 400,000 here. What is the difference? 300,000. That is why we have banks all over the world. Without this 300,000, nobody will do banking. Nobody will do banking. They must take more than what, they must give less than what they take. What they give to the surplus unit is always far, far lesser than what they take from the deficit unit. This intermediary can be safely practiced without interest. And that is why tomorrow, if you go to Ajia Kekerekun or Dr. Bashir Osodi or any practitioner in Islamic banking and finance, I always tell people, all of you, majority of you will claim, I went to Lotus Bank. I said I wanted loan. I went to Jais Bank. I said, they don't give loans. Ajia Kekerekun, do you give loans? But people do not understand you. They don't give loans. The only loan they can give is benevolent loan without any return. Are they Sodako Foundation? They are not Sodako Foundations. They are business entities. They also want to make money, which is halal. And that is why when you approach an Islamic bank and tells it, I want loan, the answer must be, we don't give loans. But mind this. What follows? They will now ask you, what do you want to use the loan for? Linking financing with what? With what? With the real sector of the economy. You said, because I'm in business of this, I want to buy more. Okay, don't worry. You want to buy more? You are able to buy 10 packs. You want to buy 100? Okay. We will buy those hundreds or whatever for you. Then as a bank, if we buy at 1 million, we will sell to you at 1.1, at 1.2. It is halal. That is what Quran says, وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Or if you like, go and meet Dr. Shodi to tell you how they were able to put up such a beautiful edifice using musharaka, partnership, that will be a win-win situation. I don't want to be giving this paper for the third time. So I have to stop here, and I pray that Almighty Allah make whatever we have listened to and what we are going to listen to subsequently, make them all beneficial to all of us in this world and in the next world. I'm sorry, it's something that I don't like, to speak to an audience that some of them will not be able to follow. But the organizers chose to conduct this session in English. I'm more comfortable speaking Yoruba. I will have spoken the way you know me speaking. So if anybody is among us that couldn't follow because of the language of the medium of instruction, I apologize on behalf of the organizers. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan